start the recording. So quiz 5, a lot of this is going to be review, okay? And you know, from now on, as we get more and more into it, you'll have some review pretty much on every quiz. But it's very important, and we did this in your, and you did this in your assignment, to understand the relationship between price and marginal utility when the consumers are maximizing their utility. And that just simply is looking at this formula right here, the ratio, right? The marginal utility. So the last unit of whatever they consume, the ratio of those two marginal utilities need to be equal to the ratio of the price, right? So if, let me just, so if you had, for example, a something really expensive, right? For one of the items. I'm trying to get to grouping here. Here we go. All right. So if you had something really expensive that cost, I don't know, it cost $1,000, and then the other item was something really inexpensive that cost $1, right? Well, you're going to want the marginal utility for whatever this is to be 1,000 times more. In other words, if you're going to buy one of these and one of these, say this is a whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But if it costs 1,000 times more, then your marginal utility, what you get out of buying it, needs to be 1,000 times more than what you get out of buying this in order for you to spend that much more. So that's what we really mean. That's the concept behind when we talk about maximizing your utility, getting the most out of what you buy, right? So that's the ratio that you want to make sure that is always going to be true when the consumer is maximizing. And remember, this is on the last one that you buy, right? The last one. Because obviously we know that as you buy more and more of something, and there's probably a graph in here or something in here that shows it. As you buy more and more of something, your marginal utility is going to drop, right? You're going to get a lot more out of the first piece of pizza if you're hungry than you are going to get out of the last. Or like if you eat 5, you're not going to get near as much out of that, okay? So that's the concept that you need to really be aware of, okay? So now, this one right here is just simply understanding that if it's a normal good and your income goes up, you buy more of it, right? So the income effect for normal good means that you buy more of it. And if it's an inferior good and your income goes up, you buy less of it, whatever it is. And when you think about the substitution effect, and by the way, this is why it's really going to be helpful if you not only read chapter 8 in your book, but make sure you read the appendix 8 in your book as well. But when we think about this is why the demand curve is downward sloping, because as the price of something goes up, you're going to begin to substitute something else that's not as expensive. So this is what this is. So you're going to, as the price goes up of an item, that means that yes, your income goes down, your real income goes down because you can't buy as much of it. So your income doesn't go as far if the prices of things go up. But that's the end. That is the income effect. You're going to buy less because it costs more, and because that means you have less real income. But this effect right here simply means that you're going to not buy, a Crest toothpaste because the price just went up. you're going to buy Colgate because Colgate is just as good for you, and it doesn't, and it's cheaper. Okay. Now this is review, price floors and ceilings, and this is simply, understanding that if you have go the other way. Sorry about that. That if you have a price floor, means that you're saying that the price cannot go below here. Okay, so if this is where the market is, and an effective price floor means it's above the market, which means you're going to have more supplied than you are demanded. So a price floor that's effective is going to create a surplus, more supply than demanded. A price ceiling means that prices are below. There's a ceiling. So prices cannot go above a certain point. And if it's going to be an effective price ceiling, it's got to be below the market price, and that's going to create a shortage because demand at that point is higher than supply, more than supply. Okay, and that's review. Just thought I would just go over that again. Understand the effect of a per unit tax. Now we did a problem with that, so you shouldn't have any problem with that at all, any difficulty with that at all. We did this problem right here where we looked at taxes, but we've done more than that, and I think I've got one in here. Yeah, here, right? Understand that when there's a per unit tax, you're going to shift the marginal cost curve to the left, and you're going to need to be able to determine what the tax revenue is, right, and what the dead weight loss is right here. So if you go back and review the problem, that's everything you need to know. You're going to need to know also that in this case right here, the tax is $2 because that's the difference right here. All along here, like the tax is the difference in the supply curve. So, all along, which is $2 from the original to the new one with the tax. But you're also going to need to know who pays what share of it, right? So the difference in the two prices is the share that the a consumer pays, and in this case $1, and then the difference between what was the price and the cost, and the cost or the share of whatever. See, in this case right here, the producer, if they produce 60, is going to receive $4 for what they produce, and the price is 5. So $1 right here of what the producer is receiving is going for the tax. So even though the consumer is paying, no, sorry, back up on that. They're going to pay the difference in the cost at the new quantity and the original price, which is 1 right here. Okay, so you're going to need to know how to determine what the tax is, right? The total tax, what the actual dollar amount of it is, and who is paying what share of it. Also, review over the changes in the this is the consumer surplus before the tax, and this is the consumer surplus after, right? And this is the producer surplus before the tax, and this is the producer surplus after, right? And this is the dead weight loss. Okay. So that's what you need to know for that. And you'll have no problem with any equation. I keep going the wrong thing here. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is just the law of a diminishing a marginal utility, which is in the book, and there's a video, so I don't really need to, just know what it is. And it's basically that as you consume more of something, your marginal utility drops. Okay, this is a review. Understand how a change in variable out. Okay, so this is just saying that if you're looking at a typical supply and demand model, let me see if I can find one here that's just easy to look at. Okay, here's one. And you get a movement along the line. That's because of a change of a variable in the model. Okay, so the only way you're going to get a movement along either the supply curve or the demand curve is if something changes the price of bananas in this case, not the price of peanuts or anything else, but the price in the model. If the price in the model changes, you're going to get some kind of a movement along the line, or if the quantity it changes. Now, typically what always happens is there's something outside the model. Like for example, let's say that the banana crop gets damaged or gets destroyed by some kind of a big storm. Well, that's going to be first a shift in the supply to the left because there's fewer bananas in the market. Now, that's going to cause a movement. So what happens when the supply curve shifts to the left is price goes up. And that price going up, the change in the model, is what causes the movement along the demand. So once again, the shift in the supply is caused, and any shift in the model, whether it's demand or supply, is caused by something happening outside the model. And then once that happens, you're going to get and that causes, then the next thing is the price goes up, and that change in the price is what causes the movement along the demand to the new market equilibrium. Now, if we go the other way and say that a study came out that says if you eat a banana, if you eat more bananas, you live 20 more years or forever, then that's something that happened outside the model. This idea that bananas are really good for you. So that's going to cause a shift to the right in the demand for bananas. Once again, price goes up, and because price goes up, because a variable changed in the model, you have a movement along the supply curve because of the change of price. Oops, up to here. Okay. So understand the basic cause and effect. That can cause either shifts in the demand or the supply, or movements on the line. And that's also review, so you shouldn't have any problem with that. And this, once again, is the same thing I just went over. Shifts in the curves are going to cause prices to either go up or go down, depending on how they shift. Now, this one is just a review again, understanding that when demand, okay, let me just go back. If you look at the formula, which I have over here, and you think about it, let me see where I have the formula. Is it here? Not what I wanted to show. I wanted to actually show the whole formula. I think I've got it here at the beginning. Down here? Yeah, not there. Where did it go? I know I've got it. Here it is. Okay, see it, guys? So this is the formula for the price elasticity. And if you look at it and just focus on this part right here, let me and then focus on this part right here. When demand is elastic, it's greater than 1, right? Greater than 1, which means that if we're moving along the demand curve and the quantity goes up more than the price goes down, right? So if this changes more than the price, that means this whole expression has to be greater than 1 if the numerator is larger than the denominator, which means it's elastic. And what that means is that a drop in price, which if you think about it, lowers total revenue, because what is total revenue? The price you charge for something times the number of the units that you sell. That's your total revenue, right? So if you charge $1 for apples and you sell 100 apples, then that's your total revenue is $100, right? So if you're lowering the price, and because you lowered the price, the quantity demanded went up. You had a big movement along, let me get you guys over here, that way, right? So the quantity actually that way, sorry. You lowered the price. You went from A to B, and you lowered the price, but you sold a whole lot more. You sold, the change in what you, and the increase in the quantity was more than the decrease in the price. Then you're actually going to get more total revenue by lowering the price, because it's elastic, because the change in quantity is more than the change in the price, which means it's greater than 1 and it's elastic. So, well, short story here, if the demand is elastic, then you're going to get a increase in total revenue when you lower the price. If demand is inelastic, it means that this expression is less than 1, which means when we lower the price is going to go down more than the quantity goes up. Because if it's inelastic and less than 1, it means the denominator is larger than the numerator, because that makes it less than 1, right? So the change in price, if the decrease in price is more as you go from here to here, then the increase in quantity, then total revenue is going to decrease. So if price is inelastic and you lower the price, you're going to get a decrease in total revenue, okay? And then, of course, just the opposite is true if you raise the price, okay? Just does the same thing except the opposite. But if you understand that what it means for demand to be elastic, it means that the change in quantity is more than the change in price. And when you're talking about demand, since it's a downward sloping curve, change in the quantity is going to go up when price goes down, and change in quantity is going to go down when price goes up. So they move in opposite directions. And once again, remember, we use for a demand, for the actual number, for price elasticity, we use the absolute value. So we don't say negative. All right. So that's that one. A review on price elasticity. Understand the relationship, once again, review between substitute complementary goods and cross price. And that's just simply a review again, which I think I just went over that. I just went by it right down here, right? So when goods are complements, right here, it means that if the price of one goes up, then the demand for the other one is going to go down. So if you always buy things together, if you always buy shoes and socks together, if the price of shoes go up, you're going to buy less socks because you're going to buy less shoes and socks, right? If there are substitutes, it means these both move in the same direction, right? So if you're looking at, I don't know, let me think, what's a substitute? I always want to say hamburgers and hot dogs, but there's got to be something else besides hamburgers and hot dogs. Coffee and tea, how about that? So if the price of coffee goes up and you just as soon have tea, then you're going to switch to tea, so the quantity demanded of tea is going to go up. So just know that if the cross price elasticity is positive, the two goods are substitutes, and if they're negative, if this whole expression is a negative, it means that they're complements. Okay, that's just review too. Okay, what we're talking about right here is if you have a minimum wage that's effective, right? And which means if we jump back over here, I'll go back to that real simple graph that I had somewhere. Think back here. Well, let me just go here. Right here? Okay. So let's say we've got the market wage rate is right here, right? And a minimum wage that is effective says that we have to pay above the market wage up here, which means you're going to have unemployment because the supply of labor, right here, the supply of labor, where's my thingy? Where'd it go? Oh yeah, here it is. So the supply of labor is going to be less or more than the demand, right? So what we're saying is, and it's going to be this much, right? So it's going to be from here to here. But now let's look at what happens if and let's go back here. So they're talking about the elasticity of demand. So what if it's very inelastic, right? And this is why it's very helpful to sketch these out. If it's very inelastic, then what's going to happen is that the impact of this minimum wage on employment is going to be less of a change. So you're only changing. So you're only dropping employment from here to here, right? So you're really not losing. So you're not putting a lot of workers out of work by raising the minimum wage because of how inelastic the demand is. However, think about it. If it's really, really elastic, right? If the demand for labor is really, 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 let's go really elastic, right? If it's here, right? Actually, that's too far. How about there, right? And now we see that you're gonna have employment going from here. Let me think. Well, what am I looking at? Yeah, from here to this, where the demand is right now is way back here, right? So you lose a lot more. So the more elastic the demand for labor is, the more impact that a minimum wage is going to have in terms of how much of a negative impact on employment. See, here you're going from an employment level here all the way back to here, right? So more elastic, more of an impact, more inelastic, less of an impact on the market. Okay. This is just a review again, understanding that when you decide to do something, right? The way you compute your opportunity cost in dollars is the cost of what you decide to do plus the cost of what you're not going to be able to do if you do it. So the example would be if you decide to go to a movie that costs $10, that's how much the ticket is. And in order to go to the movie, you had to leave work 2 hours early. And in your job, you're paid $10 an hour. So you gave up 2 hours of work in order to go to the movie. It's $20 plus 10, right? So your total opportunity cost to see the movie is $30, not just the 10 for the ticket and not just the $20 in wages that you gave up, but you have to add them both together, okay? Understand the relationship between zero opportunity cost and scarcity. Okay. The best example of a good in the world that has zero opportunity cost for most of us, most of the time, is air. You can breathe all you want all the time, and it doesn't cost you anything at all. You can breathe and do whatever else you want to do. You never have to decide between doing your homework and breathing or watching a movie. And breathing is breathing, right? So it's not scarce. So we can say that anything that is not anything that is limited, anything that is scarce has an opportunity cost. But if something has zero opportunity cost, then it is also not scarce. It is also unlimited, right? Does that? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. That's just sort of the concepts of scarcity and opportunity cost. Understand the relationship between a downward sloping demand curve and the substitution income effects. Well, that's just thinking about it. When the reason we have a downward sloping demand curve is because both the substitution effect and the income effect, right? They both have the same result. If the cost goes down, you buy more. If the cost goes up, you buy less. But it's kind of subtle, but there are different reasons, right? So if we look at a very simple demand curve here, let me get this out of the way so it's not so complicated or so crowded, I guess I should say. That if we're moving along from here to here, right, and price goes up and we shift back to here. Well, people are buying or consuming because let's say we went from where we were here to up here, right? They're buying less for two reasons. One is because they actually have less real income, because if things cost more, it takes more of their money to buy it, so their income has less buying power. So they have less real income because now their income isn't buying as much because of the higher price. So we have a downward sloping demand curve because of the income effect. Now the substitution effect says that if prices go up on something, I'm going to buy less of it and more of something else that I consider to be a substitute for it. So we still buy less of something when the price goes up because I can substitute something else that's not as expensive. So those are the two reasons why, or the two concepts behind why the demand curve is downward sloping. Okay? Keep going with that thing. Okay, now, okay. And this is just something that this is just very straightforward. One of the key assumptions of consumer theory is, and we make this assumption, is that all consumers want to get the most out of their money that they can. They want to maximize the utility that they get from their income. And that's just what we assume, okay? A basic assumption. So does anybody have any questions on anything for this quiz? I expect you all to get 100, okay? You should be asking me, what is the essay going to be on? No one's asking me, but I'll ask it for you, because I didn't mention it here. And the essay is going to be to require you to really understand problem 3 in the assignment. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand problem 3 really well, you'll do fine on the essay, and also all of them. I mean, there's maybe parts from all of them, because it's not going to be exactly problem 3. But if you understand the homework, the assignments, the problems, then you won't have any problem on the quiz question 21. Once again, this is going to be 20 multiple choice and 1 essay, or 1 free response. Okay. Now,
Okay.
once again, yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I just said okay.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad somebody said something. You guys are, this is just weird for me to teach like this, because I don't really see a lot of you, and I don't know if I'm boring you to death, or if you're listening, or I hope I'm not boring you to death. I hope that's not happening.
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay. So I want to make sure I give everyone a credit. So I've got Stephanie and Annie and Abigail and Lolita's here, I see. And let's see. Who else? Who else is here? Anyone else? Is there just a 1, 2, 3, 4? That's all there is? Okay. I told Annie this before you guys came in. If something happens, if you get into your quiz and the fire alarm goes off, or you realize that you have some kind of a commitment in a half an hour, you forgot about, stop. Just get out of it and send me an email. Now, don't take advantage. Don't do it if it's not legitimate. But if it is, if something happens that you weren't expecting, it's going to cause you to have to rush through your quiz, just stop it and send me an email, and I'll reset it for you. Okay? Because I want you to make sure you have the full time for the quiz. Okay? All right, guys. And then the other thing I wanted to just show you real quick is the calendar, just so you'll know, just so you'll remind you that right now we are in November, right here, Thursday. So we're coming to the end of the semester. So we're going to finish the work for assignment and quiz 5, and that's due December 2nd. And then we'll do one more set of assignments, discussion, and the quizzes, which are due December 16th. And then we're going to get a pretty long break, right? And we're going to, and hopefully this will match up with most of your breaks. And we'll come back after the new year and the course will resume on January 7th, and we'll start work on assignment 7, but then the semester ends in the middle of January. So the only grades that are going to count on your first semester are assignments 1 through 6. Okay, I wanted to be clear on that. And then assignment 7 is going to be due after the second semester starts. Okay, so whatever your grade average is up through assignment discussion and quiz 6 will be what it is. Okay.
So for the discussions, I get a little confused because like the date on there is like just like the normal date for like the quiz and the assignment. Like for when the discussion, like the actual discussion is due. Is it always just like the week before?
Well, what I would like to see happen, like if we're talking about discussion 5, right? Let me jump back here. I actually posted it, I think, around Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So what I would like you to do is get your initial post done as early as you can, hopefully by like Saturday. So because the discussion is actually 3 parts. It's your first post, and then you're responding to your classmates twice. So your peer responses are not due until it's actually due over here on Sunday the 2nd. But in order for everyone to respond, in order for you to have a peer to respond to, a classmate to write a response to, everyone should try to get their initial post done the first week. Does that make sense?
Okay. Is there like a specific due date though for that?
Not specific. I'm not being strict about that. I mean, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just encouraging you.
Yeah.
If you don't get it done, if you don't get it done by, I'm probably going to be not happy if you do everything on Sunday, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you wait until Sunday to do everything, because then no one's going to have a chance to respond to you, right? So if you get it done in a reasonable time, and like, I'm not perfect either. I really try. Like I'm going to really try to have your discussion 6 posted Monday. But my first priority is to make sure that the assignment is posted, and that I've got to go through and make sure that I've got all the right videos linked in. So sometimes I don't get it done Monday either, but I try to have it done as soon as I can, right? So I'm not being, but you're doing fine. I mean, if I'm not going to take points off, what I really look at, to be honest, is the quality of what you're writing. And you guys are doing a great job in what you're writing. So if your post and your responses are really good, I don't pay that much attention to when you put them in, right? If you're, like if you wrote up here, well, like I have college students who I get frustrated with here at a city college because their responses are like, I really agree with everything Abigail said, period. And that's their whole response, and I'm like, that's not enough, and you need to say something about what Abigail wrote, right? And so you guys are doing fine though. So it's really, to answer your question, it would be really great if you could try to find time to put your first post, in within the first maybe 5 or 6 days that it's available. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Does anybody else have? And I've got and so everyone who's here, I've marked as being here, right? Okay,
I think so.
Okay, let me stop the recording because we don't need to record all this stuff. Okay, so okay, great. You guys are all doing, and once again, let me just say, don't get a poor grade on a quiz because you get into it and find out that you're only going to have a half an hour or something like that, right? Stop it and send me an email so I can help you out there, okay? And try to not have that happen. Try to make sure that, you pick a time to do the quiz so that you're not going to run out of time. Okay. And that's about all that I have. So if you guys don't have anything, I will say good night. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.